Hey guys, it's Bix Weir, roadrunner.com. Got a really special guest on today. Jeff Berwick, a guy I've followed and known for going back to the old gold and silver days back in the early 2000s. Jeff is the man when it comes to freedom, the man when it comes to understanding that we don't need government. He taught me that a few years back. We don't need regulators to fix the problems. We can fix the problems ourselves. Jeff, thank you for coming on.
It's a pleasure, Bix. Yeah, I try to think back to when we first met. Was it like Silver Summit or something?
Yeah,
Or?
in Spokane, Washington. I
Yeah,
remember we were both.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, those were good old days, partying with the old silver and gold bugs and Bill Murphy and those guys. They
Oh
could
yeah, yeah, yeah. We always have fun no matter what we do. So
absolutely. And you were one of the first guys in gold. You and Trace were one of the first guys I knew in gold and silver to make that psychological switch over to cryptos to really understand it. And at first I was like, what are you thinking? And you're a gold bug. You understand it has to be hard metal. It has to have intrinsic value and all this shit. And I'm like, it took me like a good year and it cost me quite a bit of money, obviously, in crypto. But yeah, tell me let's talk about how you first came to make the flip, to jump over from gold and silver into cryptos.
yeah, it's a good question. First of all, I just want to say, Bix, because I don't think I've ever been on your show before. I don't remember
Yeah.
if I
I
yeah, I think
don't
you
I
are.
don't interview many people, so
Yeah, yeah. So, for your audience and for my audience, I just want to say, I was just thinking about this today. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there kind of hate you. There's a lot of people out there kind of hate me, and because we have some pretty crazy theories sometimes, and we're
absolutely.
idiots. And I just want to throw it out there that even when I knew you back in the gold days, and you had your road to Ruta theory, I was like, that's a pretty crazy theory, but you have some pretty good evidence on it, and I don't know if it's true or not. And same with the cryptos. You're a fan of Litecoin. I'm not as much. You really attacked EOS. I like EOS quite a bit. Not as much as I used to, but quite a bit. And I just want to throw it out there that, especially here in the crypto space, a lot of people, if you disagree on one little thing, you're like enemies. It's like, no, like we don't have the full truth or evidence on any of these things. We have some theories. Here's our evidence. We believe these things. You don't have to. We could still be very good friends. So I think a lot of people out there is so everyone just attacks everyone all the time, and I think you even think Alan Greenspan might be Satoshi. I'm like, that's pretty crazy, but I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. And the one thing I always admired about you, Bix, is you do a lot of research. You do a lot of critical thinking, and you come up with theories that no one's ever even thought about before, and you stand by them. And I think that's really something to be respected.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, the Greenspan thing, to me, it was always kind of, well, I knew he's the guy who invented financial computing back in the 60s and 70s. He's the guy, even his book, he blamed himself for Y2K. He's the guy who programmed just 2 digits instead of 4. And then we did some remote viewing around it and came up with like 4 guys that made up Satoshi. And it was, and Greenspan was one of them, and a guy named John Kimmony, the guy who invented basic computing. Steve Jobs, obviously the guy who put a computer in our hand to make Bitcoin useful. And then there's this other guy, and he's a younger guy in the remote viewing stuff, and nobody's really figured out who, that would be the closest to when the paper was published. Nobody's really figured that out. And I think lately with Craig Wright's ex-business partner, that guy has a lot of potential to be kind of the final end step. He's supposedly in jail for something. They don't quite know what he's in jail for. But remember that Satoshi came out when that guy Darren Nakamoto was getting accused of being Satoshi. Satoshi actually came out on email and sent an email saying Darren Nakamoto is not Satoshi. So unless the guy sitting in prison had access to a computer, which I doubt, it's probably not him either. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's very interesting. And, you know, if it turns out that Alan Greenspan was involved, that is so fascinating if that's the case. Like, what a strange life he's lived, being like a hardcore gold bug, then becoming the Federal Reserve chairman, having been involved in programming, as you pointed out. And then if he was actually involved in the, like, that's wild if true. I don't know if it's true or not, but like I said,
I'm not so sure about the Satoshi part.
Okay.
That one is, even for me, is a huge thought. But I am sure that he invented the first computer rigging programs and brought them to the Fed. And when he got into office, I think it was 1987. 2 months later, we had the crash of '87, which was all computer driven. And if you look at each crash ever since, especially the crash in 2008, it was all computer driven. Literally, they're sitting there at the Fed with their finger over their mouse, ready to click implode the system with the click of a mouse. So it's crazy.
Cool. So I guess I should answer your question now.
Yes.
How did I get into crypto from the precious metals? And as you know, I started the dollar. Well, you know, probably before that, I started Stockhouse.com in Canada. So I've been involved in the financial markets since the '90s. I'm getting pretty old now. It's kind of weird being this old. I didn't know I'd ever get to this stage, but I've been around for like 30 years doing this stuff now. And so I was into like the BRIX, and you know all this stuff because you're into all this mining stocks and all that sort of stuff. So I was really into that, and I actually made some pretty good money on trading on a lot of those things. Although BRIX was one of the biggest mining fraud ever, and then I got into libertarianism and anarchism through Doug Casey, and that led me to Austrian economics, which I'm not a real economics type guy, so I didn't like read every book on Austrian economics, but I was like, this, of all the economics things I've ever heard, this one it's the only one that makes any sense to me. And so I got into that, and then I was paying attention. I knew that crash was going to happen around 2007, 2008, which it did. It was just obvious to anyone like us. We just know, like this, like it's just obvious if you understand how things work. And once that happened, I went, holy cow, I actually understand how the system works a lot now. And I was looking for something new to do. I had just adopted a new daughter, and I'm like, I better make some money here. I kind of run out of money after traveling the world there for 10 years. And I all of a sudden it just came to me, the dollar vigilante, and I was like, yeah, because people don't understand what's actually going on out there. Like no one really does. No one, hardly anyone even knows how central banks even work. So I thought, okay, that'll be my next thing I'll do. And I did it, and we started in 2010, and the tagline was surviving and prospering during and after the dollar collapse. And very quickly, a lot of people were asking me, so what's going to take the place of the dollar after it collapses? And my response was, I don't know, but I'm sure the market will come up with something. And then a year later, 2011, I was at Doug Casey's ranch in Argentina, and Trace Mayer was there, and another guy as well. And he mentioned it, and Trace said, I'll send you your first Bitcoin. I'm like, what's Bitcoin? What is it? And I respected Trace a lot. I know he's a super smart guy, as you know, like he's one of the smartest people I know. So when those people tell you something, you pay attention. And I was like, it took me, I was a little faster than you, Vic. So it was about a month or two of looking at it. And I'm like, I'm not sure, maybe. And then after a couple months, I'm like, oh, I got it. Like, this is huge. This is like revolutionary. This is a paradigm shift in money and banking. Unfortunately, I didn't buy right then in 2011 when it was around 3, because the only way to buy it back then was on Mt. Gox, which is Magic the Gathering trading site in Japan. And I was like, so where do you buy these, Trace? And he's like, well, you have to go on a trading card site in Japan. I'm like, I don't know. I'll wait. I'll see what happens. But it was about probably about a year or two later, 2012, 2013. Once it got into the hundreds, definitely around 300, 400, 500, I started to buy. So that's, a lot of people think I must be a billionaire or something. But no, I didn't buy any when it was $3, unfortunately. But I did recommend it to Dollar Vigilante subscribers, and I do meet some of them sometimes. And they're like, yeah, I put like $50,000 in when you said it, $3. And I get on my calculator, and as I get to like $1 billion, I look back and they're gone. I'm like, who was that guy? It's like, oh, the cow.
That is amazing, because I have experienced that too, where I started to recommend it, and I was like, I was like piddling money in, and they're saying, oh, you made me a multi-billionaire because your recommendation. I'm like, what?
Yeah, we accept tips, by the way, guys. If you feel like throwing like 5% our way, because we weren't as smart as you were listening to us telling you to buy Bitcoin. So when Trace told me about it, and he basically, I actually had gone back to Mexico, and he was back in the US, and he said, okay, let's get on Skype or whatever it was at the time. And he said, okay, first you have to open a wallet. And I said, where do I go? And he said, just go to blockchain.info. I went there. Click, click, I had a wallet. I was like, well, that was pretty fast. That's definitely a lot faster than a bank. And he goes, okay, copy your address and send it to me. I did. And as soon as I did, 2 seconds later, beep, the little ding goes off on blockchain. And I had, I think he sent me 10 Bitcoins or something. It was, yeah, so 5 or 10 Bitcoin. And it was $3 at the time. And I think he sent me 5 actually. And I was like, whoa, that was fast. And I go, well, what can I do with it now? And he goes, well, there's not many sites out there that are accepting Bitcoin yet, but I have a site, he said, and you can buy my ebook on running to gold or whatever it is. And so why don't you send those 5 Bitcoin back to me and buy it on my site? So I did. I wish I kind of hung on to him, but Trace is very savvy. Trace didn't lose any Bitcoin in the whole transaction. And so I bought the book. And so from the time that I opened the account, the Bitcoin wallet, to the time that I received Bitcoin and bought something with it, it was basically 2 minutes. And that's really when I still had to look into how it all worked, but I was like, whoa, this is something. This really might be something. And like I said, it was about a month or 2 later, I read the white paper, talked to a lot of people, started to get my head around it, because as you know, Bix, like, and people today still have this issue, like they still don't really understand what it is. But once I got my head around it, and of course having the Austrian economics background and having the libertarian sort of background as well, and having this knowledge in that, what makes a real good money, and it's obviously not central bank fractional reserve fiat currencies. And so we were always looking at gold and silver as being a much better money. And then when I understood all that, and then I saw it, and I'm also a computer nerd from the time I was 10 years old. So I've always been on computers. So it was pretty easy for me to connect the dots at that point. So it basically took a month or 2, but yeah, it's been a wild ride since, and I think we're still just getting started.
I agree. And I think back to all the people that you have brought awareness to in this space, and adoption and education. It really does. It boggles the mind, because you have such a broad reach on social media, and with the Anarchy conference, which is the greatest conference in the world, by the way. I mean, oh my God, if you have anything left as a legacy when you die, you can say, I was the guy who started Anarchy, because that thing's going to go on forever. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I mean, last year was a down year in cryptos, and it was still packed with people. I can just imagine what next year is going to be. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I've already started thinking about that, because we really did get impacted by the crypto crash in 2018. So, we had a lot of people even register early, and then a lot of people were just canceling. They're like, I just lost 90% of all my money this year. I can't afford to come to Mexico. A lot of sponsors pulled out, all that kind of stuff. We actually ended up almost losing money this year at Anarchy. We actually ended up making money, but the reason we actually originally lost a lot, because a lot of people actually pay for Anarchy with crypto. Bitcoin Cash are 2 of the most popular ones. And a lot of people were buying it back in March, April, May, June of 2018, when Bitcoin was still around $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000. And I just didn't even pay attention to it. I have people who run Anarchy for me, and I'm just not the type who I'm going to hedge a lot of crypto. I'm just such a big believer in crypto that even if there's a possibility we're going to lose a lot, I'm still not going to probably sell a lot of it. But in hindsight, I wish I'd sold some puts or something, or some really leveraged futures, just in case. Because I didn't know as well. Like I said to a lot of people, Bitcoin's definitely going down. It hit 20, and we need a pullback here. And we actually at the Dollar Vigilante had a target of 3,500, which is basically almost where it hit. So I actually knew that was going to happen, but it wasn't. We had a new management this year, Jessica, and she contacted me in November, and she's like, okay, I finally figured out where all the accounts are. I've got the accounting working. I finally figured out where the crypto is. And she goes, we're in big trouble. And I go, why? And she goes, well, we took in like 400,000 in crypto, and it's only worth like 150,000 now. So we lost $250,000. And I was like, holy cow. Okay, let's cut back on expenses, that sort of thing. But the good thing is we never sold. So now crypto's back, Bitcoin's back to 11. So in fact, we actually ended up making money. But yeah, so it's been interesting in Anarchy. So we did have a bit of a down year last year. We still had almost double the attendees of the year before, but we were expecting a lot more. But I think this year, if this crypto market keeps up, yeah, we're going to see it'll be sold out. It'll be 3,000 people. That's about the max that we could hold at that hotel, and yeah, it'll definitely sell out probably in 2020.
Have you announced the dates yet?
We haven't, but I'll give you the scoop because we're just about to. It's February 13th to 17th.
Cool.
So yeah. We're just about to announce the dates and speakers and everything in the next couple of weeks, but you got the scoop on the dates.
All right. Hey, you hear that, guys? We got the scoop. Although you can't buy them yet until they announce, right? No, there's an early bird.
You can register right now. Yep.
Okay. I mean, I get so many people asking me because they see the videos of the event. They're like, oh man, I wish I'd gone. And now that the cryptos, I think, obviously have bottomed, and all these new people who have never experienced a bull run in cryptos are coming up to me and saying, oh my God, did you see Bitcoin went up $1,000 in a day? It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, settle down. We got a long way to go. But it's great to see because, I got people in, I started, I think 2014 or 15, really, really pushing it, saying, hey, this is something you need to get a little of. And then I'm like, you need to get a lot of it. And you should sell some gold and silver to buy Bitcoin if you don't have enough cryptos. And then the gold and silver people are, the government and JP Morgan sit on those prices so hard. And this new thing, this freely traded cryptocurrency thing has just blown up, and everybody's like, oh my God, I want to put everything in that. And I'm like, you don't want to put everything in on it because you're still going to have the ups and downs. You can have the 90% drops. It's happened many times, and you get better at it after you go through it a couple times, but it's still extremely difficult. The hardest thing for me is at the tops, really. And I did get you and Ed came out with your, hey, now's a good time to sell. And even Charlie Lee was saying, just now's a good time to sell unless you can hang on for the 90% pullback. And yeah, I sold
it's pretty obvious, in retrospect. With it started the year 2017 at $1,000, and it hit $20,000 by December. That's a 20 times gain, and it went really parabolic there after 15. And as you've been in the markets for so long, with that, after you have such a massive gain, you've seen this with mining stocks. After you have such a massive gain, and then it goes parabolic, it's going to crash after that. That's what things do.
Time to run, or at least pull back and then get ready to hodl for a good 18 months.
Yeah So you kind of have to know these things a little bit, but it's been a pretty wild ride. And one of the things that looking back on it, because I knew you from the gold days, and not to say I'm not still a gold guy, I'm super excited to see gold finally moving up 5-6 year high here. You mentioned to me prior that silver hasn't started to move yet, but I think they have to start. Well, gold for sure. I don't know how how much they manipulate the silver, such a small market, but that's really exciting. But I remember when I was really into Bitcoin in 2011. By 2012, by 2013, I was sure. I'm not as sure as I am today, but I was like 90% of where I am today. I was like, this is huge. This is going to be huge. And then, so I'm watching a lot of the gold people, and I'm trying to talk to them. And we know all these gold people from, going to all these conferences and just friends of ours. And so many of them were so slow to pick up on it. In fact, there's still many, including Peter Schiff, who's still just like, this is Beanie Babies. This is tulip bulbs. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, are you insane? I don't even get it. But so there's still some gold bugs that still don't get it. But I think you were one of the first that really got it. And to me, I was like, okay, I knew Bix was cool. Like he's always thinking, he's always, he's not afraid to, look at some different theories or look at different ways of looking at things. And so when I saw you got into it pretty early, I was like, okay, that's cool. Glad to see that. And, even, Steve Savell, he writes a newsletter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he still thinks he's along the lines of Peter Schiff. They just stuck with, intrinsic value and the theorem of money or whatever it is by whoever.
And Chris Duane was the same way. Yeah, Chris Duane hasn't changed. Yeah. I think these guys get so stuck in there, and they feel bad for their customers that if they change, that would mean for some reason they were wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean you were wrong. It means the world changed. When Bitcoin was introduced, the monetary world changed because we've never seen that type of mimic of gold. It had everything gold had and more. And that was the crazy thing for me to get my head around. And I did an interview with Jim Sinclair and Bill Holter, and it was myself and Cliff High. Cliff is a brilliant guy, one of the best computer programmers out there in the world. And we were like, okay, we need to talk to the gold community to try to explain this whole crypto thing. So they asked us to talk first. I said a couple minutes on what a cryptocurrency was. Cliff was talking about how the computer stuff worked and how it was the computer programmer's turn to control his money thing because everybody else screwed it up so bad. Jim Sinclair comes on, and you think Mr. Gold, he's going to say, "Oh, this is bullshit." He said, "I absolutely agree, 100%, eloquently spoken. I agree, 100%." Yeah, and it was like, and Bill Holter's like, "What do I say now?"
Yeah, you'd think, Peter Schiff, Steve Seville, you mentioned Dwayne. I know his name.
Dwayne.
Yeah, these guys are all investors. And as investors, they should know that if you've got a theory or if you've got a sort of a view on things and it just gets proven wrong for years and years and years, you have to really reanalyze your theory. And the worst thing you can ever do as an investor is just get stuck. It's like, well, I've always hated Bitcoin, so I'll always hate Bitcoin. It's like, but there is something about just admitting you're wrong. And like we don't know the future. Like, quantum computers, I've heard some things coming out. Like Bitcoin could be gone in a few years. It's totally possible. But it's not for the reasons that they say. It's if there is major problems in cryptos, it's not because of the reasons they're talking about. They're basically saying this is a fad. Peter Schill actually says it's like Beanie Babies. It's like, Peter, this is like a paradigm shift in money and banking. You can actually not only own your own money for the first time, really, but you can become your own bank for the first time ever. You can hold $1 billion in your own brain. Is that not worth anything? But some people just get stuck. And I guess once you get stuck and you're there for years, it'll be pretty funny, actually, if in 20 years, Bitcoin's like $10 million or something, like if it's still around, like things change fast. And Peter Schill's still alive and he's still like, it's Beanie Babies. It's like all the banks are gone, fiat currencies are gone. And he's still like, no, it's a bubble. It's a scam.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
It's like, let it go. Just let it go. Like everyone's wrong. Like I'm sure you've made tons of mistakes, Bix. I've made tons of mistakes. Go, I made a mistake. Sorry, guys. I admit I was wrong. And, it's got to be better than just hanging on for years and years.
I feel so bad for someone like Bill Murphy and those guys. I feel so bad for them for just not adjusting to what was going on. The funny thing is with YouTube, we're going to see the Peter Schill YouTube videos of him calling it Beanie Babies for the next 10, 20 years. And it's kind of like Katie Couric, back when the internet was first invented. They have this Good Morning America spot where she comes on, the internet, email? What do you send letters over the wires? How do you send a letter over the wires?
How do you get email without the post office? And I've seen it. It's hilarious.
That's classic. But that's exactly what these guys are hanging on to gold or are going to be ending up with.
Well, we should say, I'm still I don't know about yourself. I don't know what your most recent things are. I haven't watched your videos lately, but I'm still incredibly bullish on gold and silver. In fact, if I was talking to a grandmother who, just needs to get through the next 5-10 years and she doesn't want to lose all her money or anything, I'd say 60-70% precious metals and maybe 10-15% cryptos and something else. But so I'm still incredibly bullish, and actually, it's really great to finally see gold finally breaking out a little bit here. I know it's tiny. It's kind of funny coming from the crypto space, going back to the gold space.
Oh my God!
They're like, holy cow, gold just skyrocketed. I look, it's up 1% or something, but it did break above 1,400. So that is something. Somewhat important. That's the first time in 5 or 6 years it's done that, but I really think it's going to take off. We're expecting 5,000 on gold in the next 3 years is basically what we're expecting at the Dollar Vigilante. And I don't know about yourself, but just in case some people out there think that I'm anti-gold or precious metals, not at all. I think it's still very important.
I agree, and all the reasons that I originally got into gold are still there. Now I don't hold much gold at all because of the silver story. I think is like gold on steroids with the manipulation. And I mean, just look at the price. The all-time high in 80 of gold was like $850, and gold's almost double that now. And all-time high in silver twice was $50, and it's trading at $15. It's literally been sat on for so long and so hard by the likes of JP Morgan and the Fed and all that. And it's been used up. So all the things that are great for gold are even better for silver. And if there was no silver, I'd definitely be a huge investor in gold. I see them as very similar as far as on the monetary side. But then silver has the kicker of industrial that consumes silvers. There's just a zillion different things, but absolutely everybody should own some precious metal. Again, in your own possession, just like cryptos, in your own possession. So important, because the cryptos as well as gold and silver represent a real asset. It's nobody's liability and nobody's debt, and there's no third party in the middle of it if you get the right crypto. And that's key to really owning your own investments and having your wealth in your possession so you can do what you want. If the government wants to take them, they're going to have to come with guns to take my cryptos or my gold or silver.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to have to do even more than that to me, especially with the crypto. Yeah, absolutely. And that's an important point to point out is that's what's so great about crypto is you literally can hold it without anyone else having any access to it, anyone in the world, unless they put a gun to your head or torture you or whatever. And even then, if you're like me, you're still not going to give it up because I've never given anything to the government ever. But yeah, it is important. And the same with the precious metals. I do personally, just, casual talk here, Bix. I hold some at goldmoney.com and where else do I have some gold? I think some other places. I have some all over the place, really. I think there's some options there. I love that there's a lot of gold-backed cryptos coming out now. That's going to make everything so much easier for owning gold. But as you point out, you're still at risk. If you don't hold it, you just don't own it. And people don't understand that because we haven't really seen a massive collapse in sort of our lifetimes in the West. People have seen it in the Soviet Union, they've seen it in China, they've seen it in Venezuela, they've seen it all over the place. We haven't seen that full collapse where everything just goes down. And we're going to have that in the West, probably in the next few years. And people will realize then why it's so important that your gold isn't an ETF on a stock exchange, which probably doesn't even have gold backing it, when the bank that backs it goes down, when the stock exchange itself might even just go down, and the gold's not even there. You'll find out pretty quickly why it's important to hold a lot of it in your own possession.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think, but since this is the thing that you taught me, and I talked about it at the last Narcopoca conference, is for a long time I was bitching and moaning about the silver exchange regulators. I'm like, these regulators aren't doing their job. It's obvious to the world. Bart Chilton finally came out and said, hey, yeah, they were rigging the silver market, and then is dead a month later. But these regulators, I don't care about them anymore. Jeff taught me this. I don't care about the regulators. We can take control of our own exchanges. If we don't like an exchange, like some of these crypto exchanges are trading 1,000 times the amount of coins available. If we don't like those exchanges, what's going on in the crypto world is that people are inventing decentralized exchanges so that you can go peer-to-peer type of transactions instead of going through a centralized exchange. That is so huge and so different than what goes on in gold and silver, where you have the COMEX and the LBMA in Shanghai, and that's about it they tell you what the price of gold and silver are going to be.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of guys in a boardroom in London every day decide the price, don't they? I don't follow it anywhere near as much as you. I'm not a super expert on gold, but that's my understanding is it's just a couple of guys go, oh, this is the price today.
It used to be four identified, including the Rothschild. They called it the London fix because they were fixing the price. I'm like, how obvious can you be to a regular?
They're not even lying about it. They're just being very clear about what it is. Price fixing.
That's the amazing thing, because I fought the fight with gold and silver. I'm still fighting the fight here and there, but I gave up when, none of the mining company CEOs would stand up and say, hey, you're screwing up our industry. We should be able to pay our employees. We got mines going bankrupt all around the world because you're driving the price of silver down to $15. But none of the CEOs did anything about it. None of the investors or investment houses did anything about it. And basically the silver and gold industry were fine with a rigged system. And when I get to cryptos and I see it starting to happen there, I'm jumping up and down. No, we need regulators. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no, we don't need regulators. Regulators are the problem. They make people complacent that their investments are safe in this exchange or that exchange when they aren't. They're being rigged in those exchanges. So without regulators, which we can do in cryptos, that would be a freedom that we don't even know yet. The freedom to go peer-to-peer exchanges without any third-party middleman to rig the price. That's what's headed down the line for cryptos. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, just talking about the price manipulation and all that sort of stuff. You mentioned earlier that government regulators don't do their job. In my way of looking at things, they totally do their job. They work for the government. They work for the system, which is all owned by the same people, the Rothschilds and all that. They aren't there to protect the little guy. They're there to protect their monopolies, to protect their things. So, this is, a lot of people think, well, these regulators, they must be there to protect us. No, that's not what they're there. And luckily now, Bix, with cryptos, as you pointed out, we truly can have the market be the regulator now. And that's, as you pointed out, it's going to be super exciting to see how it all works out, because we've never really seen what a real free market looks like. And we're seeing that in crypto in many extents. And look at how profitable it's been already for a lot of people, just when you have a little bit of freedom and no manipulation. There's always manipulation, but they really can't manipulate Bitcoin like they can gold and silver. They just can't. I don't know what your views are on that, but when I hear people go, oh, I'm sure the Fed's already rigged Bitcoin. It's like, you can't really, they can't do it the way they do it with the gold and silver. That's for sure.
Well, I would say, yeah, they can rig price, because you look at the volumes traded on the exchanges, and it's like Litecoin's a great example. When Litecoin was really booming in the last couple of months, 100% of all Litecoin ever mined was traded in 24 hours. And that's right now it's 50% of Litecoin ever mined. So it's all derivatives going back and forth. Now, mind you, there is a delivery aspect that we don't have in gold and silver, really, because it's impractical to deliver gold and silver on large scales. In cryptos, it's not impractical to deliver. So anybody can go, if the exchange is a good exchange, anybody can go to the exchange, like Trace's proof of keys, and say, I want my crypto in my own possession at any time. And then if they don't have the cryptos that they say you have in your account, they'll say, oh, we got hacked, or it happens all. Mt. Gox was all about that. It wasn't. They didn't get hacked. They didn't lose the crypto. They were dealing in a fractional reserve system, just like the exchanges are today. And then some big players started to pull their Bitcoin out. It was just Bitcoin they were trading, I believe, at the time. And once that started and the rumors started spreading, everybody said, okay, well, I'll get out because, I have just so much in my account. It's in my name, so I'll pull it out. And then they couldn't get it out. And then everybody started panicking. And then all of a sudden, poof, hey, we got hacked. And then they miraculously found some, but it was a fraction, large portion, I think 60% of what they claimed to have or something ended up getting recovered. And then it goes through back into the system in this damn trustee bullshit that is still going on to this day. And they use that trustee Bitcoin to sell into the market when they want to cool down Bitcoin. It's a big, big, big operation. And there's so many arms going left and right. It's crazy.
Yeah. Have you been following the Quadriga story in Canada?
Yeah. It's just, I don't think that guy's dead. I don't think
so either, but there's been some new information that just came out like a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know how legit this information is, but it's just something I came across. And it was basically saying that this guy, he never, you'd put Bitcoin on the exchange, he'd just take it out, and he was going on other trading sites, and he was going major leverage trades and always losing. So he's basically a gambling addict who stole all this money, so crazy. It's so horrible. But, as we mentioned earlier, and this is something people should know, don't leave your crypto on exchanges. Only leave it there if you're actively trading it. But as soon as you're done trading, take it off, because you can't trust anyone in this world. I don't know what happens to people. I would never do anything like what these guys do. Even the Quadriga guy, taking it all off and just gambling with it. What are you doing, man? And they say he died in Thailand or something. I'm pretty sure he didn't. But it looks like he actually lost most of the crypto. So that's just crazy.
Yeah. But I would venture to say that over half the exchanges out there today are just like that. I'm not saying they're gambling them away, but they don't have the cryptos that they tell their customers, hey, you got, 10 Bitcoin and 5 Ethereum in your wallet. Here's your keys on our exchange, but they aren't on the blockchain. The keys that they give.
Well, this is how we ended up with fiat currencies and fractional reserve banking, right? It was back in the gold days. A lot of people like the Rothschilds and all them, they stored the gold. And just like a lot of these crypto guys, they're like, hey, not everyone's taking all their gold out every day. Why don't we just not have as much gold as we say we have? And we just gamble or invest or do whatever with the money. And that's really how we got into all of these things, is because people put their faith into a person or a company,
a third party.
He said, yeah, we've got your gold here. It's like, this is another reason why crypto is so important.
Absolutely. And then they made it completely legal with fractional reserve lending. Yeah. I mean, you just scratch your head and say, these are the biggest criminals on planet Earth, and we're going to give them a license to create money out of thin air and gamble it away. And then we bail them out if they get in trouble.
Yeah, it's like, from their perspective, it's an amazing system. I can't believe they've gotten away with it. You start up something like a central bank, the Rothschilds and other people like them, and you just go into every country and you say, we're going to be your central bank. We're going to print up money, which costs us basically nothing. We just print it up out of thin air, either digital or paper, and then we're going to lend it to you. And it's like, what a great business. And then, as you pointed out, then they've gone on with the fractional reserve banking. Then they've got all the banks, and the banks don't have any money either. You go in for a car loan, it's like, we'll just print up some money, and now you owe us interest on that money that we just created out of nothing. The whole system's crazy, and it's all going down, which is great. And that's why, to me, crypto is so important. If crypto didn't exist today in 2019, Bix, I don't know if I'd be doing what I'm doing. I'd probably be pretty much moving to the forest and just getting ready for bad times ahead. But thanks to crypto, I'm actually optimistic. We actually can get rid of all these horrible scam systems and replace it with something much better, and get rid of a lot of these problems on Earth, all through cryptos. It's truly an amazing time to be alive.
I'm in the same headspace as you are, absolutely, and it is refreshing, because the dark days of just gold and silver, and that was the only other option. It never had a happy ending. It had a chaotic ending. I still think we're going to hit chaos coming up here because of the Deutsche Bank situation with all those derivatives, and there's a lot of chaos to go through to get to that other side. Let's segue into what I really want to talk about, which is the Facebook coin. And I've seen a couple of your videos on it. I've talked a little bit about it. I'd like to dig in a little more as far as, from my side, Facebook has always been a CIA developed. Larry Summers, he was at the time was the president of Harvard when Zuckerberg came in Harvard, and all that stuff. It's dark. I mean, the history of Facebook is just filled with the NSA, the CIA, and DARPA, and all this stuff. And then we hear, there's this great coin that we're going to release. It's a real cryptocurrency with a decentralized. Can you give us your take on kind of where we are, where you and Dollar Vigilante and Ed are on kind of where this is taking us?
Yeah, sure. I agree with you on Facebook, mostly CIA operation. I think the only company I would say that's even more is Alphabet or Google. I couldn't believe that no one even mentioned that Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Alphabet, quits, and the next day he's at the Pentagon working there. He works at the Pentagon now. It's like,
does he work at the Pentagon?
Yeah. No one's even talked about it. Like, it's so clear. It's a total government CIA sort of operation, both those companies and a lot of other companies as well. So, the Facebook shitcoin, the thing that surprised me the most has been how quickly they've been rolling it out, because we heard about a year ago that they were working on something in crypto. They had started a crypto division or something, and that's all we heard. And there was no other information that I saw for a year. And then 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden, they leaked some information that it's going to be called Global Coin.
I saw that.
I was just laughing. I was like, "Oh my God, they're not even trying to hide it." And they didn't say too much about it. They just said it's going to be a stable coin. I love the word stable coin. It's not going to be stable, and that was about it. So it's going to be called Global Coin, and it's going to be a stablecoin. That's all we knew. And then 2 weeks later, which was a couple days ago, they released the white paper. I was like, holy cow, that was fast. Mm-hmm. And I skimmed the white paper, and it's a lot of it's what I expected, and some surprises in there. And then the next day after the white paper, they actually launched their testnet. So within a couple of weeks, this thing went from just maybe an idea that maybe Facebook would do to it's already here. And I think the reason they're rushing it is because they know if they don't get ahead of this crypto thing, they're going to get destroyed by it. And I think they're still going to get destroyed by it, by the way. So to answer your question about what I think about it, you know very well about SDRs, special drawing rights. This looks like the digital SDR. That's what the SDR was supposed to be. They've been trying to bring in the SDR for decades. It's never really caught on. And it's supposed to be a basket of fiat currencies and I think government bonds, which is what the Facebook coin is. So to me, this looks like a sort of like what the IMF kind of wanted, which is a world currency, a global currency that is a basket of all this garbage fiat currencies and even worse, government bonds. And as you know, Bix, like those things are going down like so bad. Like I can't believe
to fail. It's guaranteed to fail.
It's guaranteed. It's the most guaranteed 100% loss in your investment. In real terms, in nominal terms, you might get your money back, but you won't be able to buy anything with it once we get into hyperinflation. You know all this stuff very well. And so that's what this looks like it is. And it took me a couple of days to kind of like figure it out, but I'm like, okay, so this is they kind of already leaked it with Global Coin. I think that was like, they kind of put that out there to let, certain people know this is it. I was surprised when I saw Congress in the US attack it the very next day and say they want to possibly shut it down because Congress is owned by the same people who own Facebook, who own the US government, who own the Federal Reserve. So there might just be a miscommunication there, or it's a show. They just want to make it look like, oh, we're regulating it, we're gonna make sure it's safe, and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff is just a show, but yeah, it looks like that's what they want to do. So the question is, will this catch on, and will this become the one world currency that they want, and will this be used by everyone, and will this destroy things like Bitcoin and other things? To answer the second part, I don't think at all it's going to destroy the crypto market. In fact, it could enhance it massively. Because what you have here is there's about 30 million people in the world who currently own some crypto from certain estimates. I think that's probably a reasonable estimate. And Facebook has about 2 billion people, I believe, on their platform. So if all of a sudden, 7? They have like everyone in the world?
2.7.
Oh, 2. They said 7. Yeah, 2. Yeah, so about 3 billion. So if all of a sudden, and it looks like they're already launching it, so it might be out like next week, who knows, all of a sudden 3 billion people, all of a sudden for the first time have a digital currency wallet. And that's what I prefer to call the Facebook coin is digital currency because it's not a cryptocurrency. It has there's hardly anything, the difference between Bitcoin and Facebook coin is so night and day. Like it's apples and oranges. It's not decentralized, it's all this sort of thing. So I prefer to call it a digital currency, but all of a sudden, 3 billion people will have a digital currency wallet all of a sudden. And if it starts to catch on, and it might not, there's a possibility it might not even catch on, but if it starts to catch on, people start using it, which I could see, it'll be like a PayPal or a Venmo, but they'll just have their own currency, which they're hoping that people just don't even go back into dollars or anything from it. They just use it as a currency, which is possible. That could catch on. All of a sudden, you'll have 3 billion people all of a sudden might have a digital currency, which I'm pretty sure shouldn't be very hard to transfer into other cryptocurrencies. Now, I've been thinking about this, Bix, so maybe you have some ideas. We've only known about it for a couple of days now. Can you see any way they would be able to stop people from transferring Facebook coin into other cryptocurrencies? There must be a way, but I can't think of how they would do it.
Well, they could make it illegal to be traded on exchanges, but I don't think they're trying to do that.
Yeah, no, they're not even trying to do that. I guess if it's a digital wallet, I'm just thinking out loud here. If it's a digital wallet and it's on their system and it's centralized, I guess they could say, well, no, I don't know how they'd be able to stop it. So unless there's a way they know of that I don't know of on how to stop you to transfer it from Facebook coin to Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, this will have massive repercussions for the crypto market. All of a sudden, we'll go from 30 million people who have cryptos to maybe 1 billion people who have digital currencies all of a sudden that can easily be transferred into Bitcoin. And then all it takes is for people to, like us, to tell them, you should transfer out of fake Bitcoin. It's going down. It's backed by government bonds. They're going to zero, and get into Bitcoin. So, the markets, I think, agree with my perspective because it's only been about 2 weeks since they announced it, and the cryptocurrencies have skyrocketed since. So I think this is a very net positive for the cryptocurrency space. It might end up becoming sort of like this one world currency, fiat currency type thing. That is possible, but I think still at the end it goes down and the cryptocurrencies are the winner in the very end. But nothing's for sure. I said in my videos about it, this is just going to be incredibly interesting. We've now got a major player in the game who's really trying to compete with the cryptos, and they've got everyone on board, like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, go down the list, they all got on board. It's clear this is a globalist sort of agenda, and we'll see what happens. This is going to be, I said, this is the next battle, is the success of Facebook coin and how it affects the cryptocurrencies. If it works out the way I think within 5 years, Facebook coin doesn't even exist and Bitcoin's at $1 million. But it might not. Nothing's for sure. But this is going to be where the next battle is. And if we lose, if somehow they manage to shut down all cryptocurrencies, which is almost impossible, but somehow it happens, and Facebook coin does become the one world currency that everyone in the world uses, and it's digital and is tracked by the biggest tracking company in the world, which is Facebook and Google, which is tied into the NSA, the IRS, the CIA. They will know everything about what everyone in the world does, and this is where the mark of the beast sort of thing comes in from the Bible. If everyone is using this as the currency, and they've somehow managed to stop cryptos and even gold and silver to an extent, if they don't like your comments, just like on Facebook today, if you post a comment and some 30-year-old transvestite who lives in his mother's basement, who's got $200,000 worth of student loan debt, had his feelings hurt by your post, and he flags it, your wallet gets frozen, and all of a sudden you can't buy anything. You can't, if everything's payable with Facebook coin, you can't buy food, you can't buy rent. You've got a 30-day ban because you said you liked some Republican or something like that. So yeah, basically the stakes are the same here as the stakes were before, but we're getting very close to figuring out what's going to happen now. We're either going to end up in the best case scenario, which is all governments, all central banks are wiped out, all fiat currencies are wiped out. We actually have a sound money, whether it's Bitcoin or Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash or Monero, whatever it is. We'll have peace and prosperity like we've never known it. All wars will end. There'll be so much less poverty. We basically no poverty. There'll be just nothing but just, it won't be perfect. Like, I'm not saying we're going to live in paradise. There's still going to be people killing each other and people lying to each other and all that kind of stuff. But all the big problems will be gone if the cryptos win. And if Facebook shitcoin wins, we're going to live in a tyranny unlike anything that anyone has ever seen. So those are the stakes.
Well said. First of all, well said. I agree 1,000%. I did go through the white paper. I read a couple articles on it, and from my take, you're right. It juggles the good stuff with the bad stuff. The bad stuff is it has the potential to be that one world government, and everybody who's on the dark side of seeing the futures that way are going to jump on that. They're going to say, "Oh, the Rothschilds are taking it over, and it's all the corporations, corporatism, and they're all going to work together to ban all our transactions. They can cut off us," which they can. With that system, the way it's set up, as far as what I can tell, it's not immutable. It's not decentralized. It's got all the bad things of a cryptocurrency and the bad things of a blockchain and the bad things of who's running it. It's the people.
It's sort of like the bad bank of cryptos, sort of
It
like Deutsche Bank. They put all their bad debt into the bad bank, which is it makes no sense almost.
Can we do that? Can we say this is the bad Bix? All my debts go over here and all my assets go over here.
Yeah. It's like, Jeff, you owe us money. Oh, that's the bad Jeff. He's over there. This is the good Jeff. I don't know you anything. It's like, okay, that's weird.
Absolutely. So my take, though, is very similar to yours, except the introduction to, say, 3 billion people. And they're going to get these validators on. And one of the criteria of one of the validators that come on, these are the guys who are in charge of the nodes, running the nodes. The criteria is they got to have at least 20 million people that use their services already. So if you get 100 of those, you're talking basically everybody in the world would have access to this Libra, the Facebook coin. But they're going to be able, 20 million or 7 billion people will be able to compare cryptocurrencies as well. And because Libra is linked to fiat money, probably mostly the dollar, that's why that's the stability part of it. You're going to have people all around the world holding this thing that they see the purchasing power go down, while their neighbor over there was something very similar to, at least it looks similar to them, like Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash. And those will be going up massively in value. So I see all 7 billion running away. It's Gresham's law. Bad money chases out the good. They're going to want to spend their bad money, their fiat or their fiat Facebook money, to get something very similar. I mean, you cannot think of a better way to get mass adoption, mass education, and mass awareness than something like the Facebook coin, because it is absolutely the antithesis of true cryptocurrencies and real blockchain. So people are going to get it. They're going to say, what is this thing that, my government's printing all this money. I can't buy a loaf of bread with, 100 Facebook coins, but I can take a millionth of a Litecoin and buy a whole house. What is going on here? I think that's going to be.
Notice their neighbor. They'll be like, every year I'm like losing, and we haven't even started in the hyperinflation yet. Just wait until the next few years, like next 5 years. Like I can't even imagine 10 years from now. Like it'll be just insane. It'll be like Venezuela basically. But even in the next couple of years, it's going to start getting really bad, especially with the government bonds backing this coin. And yeah, you'll see people going, well, I hold like a few $1,000s of Facebook coin, but man, it only buys about half of what I could buy last year. And my neighbor, he's got some Bitcoin. He's got like a Lamborghini. What the heck? And go talk to his neighbor and transfer over into Bitcoin. And, that'll happen like all over the place probably.
Yeah, especially with people like us yelling and screaming on YouTube, get out, get over here.
Well, that's why they're kicking us all off YouTube, but.
Well, yeah.
We'll still be there somewhere.
We will, absolutely.
We won't stop yelling, that's for sure.
Yeah. My hope is that, because so many YouTube people built up their audience on YouTube, put their blood, sweat, and tears into YouTube over the past, 10 years, my hope is that somebody goes in and removes Google's management and said, you're going to jail because you're rigging the 2020 election. That's the latest thing today I saw on Zero Hedge. They've got, what are those guys who go in with the cameras, the secret cameras, into corporations and, oh shit. Name
whistleblowers.
Veritas. The guys at Veritas filmed one of the main people at Google talking to other people about how they're going to rig the 2020 election for the Democrats. That's just broke today. I'm like, all right, let's get this out there, because these guys need to be removed. And then, but that gets into, okay, what are you going to remove the whole deep state out of all the social media companies? It's.
Well, really what it is, Bix, is people just need to start waking up and start moving away from these things. And that's the key. And so really we're at a point, I think, in human history where you can choose to be a complete slave or not at this point. And it's really our choice. You can choose to continue to use dollars. You can choose to continue paying your taxes. You can choose to do all those things, or you can start using cryptocurrencies, walk away from the system, start using other platforms that aren't owned by the CIA, and they'll just go away if enough people do that. So it's like, so many people out there, they're always waiting for someone to save them. It's the whole sort of like Jesus meme to an extent, like he's coming back. You won't have to do anything. Just wait till he comes back. It's like, no, do something. Like everyone do something. Like if we all have the power, this is like if all of us were able to wake up enough and actually we have the power to just walk away from all these things. We can get off of Facebook and get on decentralized blockchain-based social media sites. We can get off YouTube and get on BitChute or on, there's numerous ones, Library now, and numerous other ones that are all blockchain-based. It's really in our control. It's aside from the currency aspect of what might happen, we actually have the control, the power ourselves to actually get rid of all these systems, but it really just takes people actually doing something. And I find that a lot, Bix, is like a lot of people, they'll watch our videos and they'll be like, yeah, that's great, and I really agree with them. But they don't go out there and they don't go to their store and say, hey, why don't you accept Bitcoin? You know, like, just if everyone did that every day, or not even every day, once a month, that's, you know, why Roger Ver is so famous. He's called the Bitcoin Jesus, because he's still to this day, everywhere he goes into a restaurant, he gets them on Bitcoin. If everyone just did that once a month, there's 30 million people in crypto. So they get about 12 people a year, 10 people a year into crypto. If there's 30 million, next year there's 300 million, the next year there's 3 billion. It's fast. Over. Yeah, it's really like, and this is what they don't want us to know. This is the hidden information, is we actually have all the power, but you actually just have to realize it and take control of that power. But if you don't, you will end up completely and totally enslaved and probably killed at some point if you don't. So but we do have that choice right now. Humanity has this choice. It's an amazing time. And, you know, we do have the internet. We can get this information out there. And even just people like sharing these videos, or even just liking them. Like I get like, I don't know about you, Bix, but like I'll get like 50,000 views on a video, and they'll be like 500 likes or something. It's like, just click the little like, because when you click the like, more people will have a chance to see it, because it'll get better in the algorithms and all that kind of stuff. You know, like that, it's almost at this point, Bix, where we can all change the world if everyone just clicked like every now and then. Like, do you want to be slaves forever, or do you just want to like click the mouse button and share a video? You know, like we can do it. It's that easy, but people just, they dumb us down through the schools, the government indoctrination camps, the television programming, even to an extent organized religion. A lot of the stuff is like, you're not special, you can't change anything, you're supposed to just work in a job and adhere to what the cult and the culture and the society says. And that's really what they try to do to people, and it's really worked. A lot of people think, when you talk to almost anyone, you say, you know, you could change the world. They're like, me? How can I change? Anyone can. You know, some really obviously famous examples, people like Gandhi, not a perfect guy at all. Heard he's like a rapist or something. I don't care, whatever. But he's kind of just went on a walk and stopped eating, and it caused a massive problem for the British government. Like, that was one guy. Anyone can do it. We can all do it. But that's the key. We have to actually do something.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the heart of Anarchapulco right there. That's the kind of feeling and inspiration you get when you go to the Anarchapulco conference. I am absolutely going to share this commercial about Anarchapulco. I'm actually working with, there's 30 of us working with Christoph Melchizedek. Mm-hmm. There's 30 of us in his year-long program right now, and they're all from Anarchapulco. And we got together and said, hey, let's do this. And I lost 25 pounds this month. My spiritual side is on fire. I'm clear in my thinking, which is good for a conspiracy guy like me. It's good to be clear when you think. So, hey, anybody out there, if you can get to Anarchapulco, I know some people jumped the train to get down there, and I wrote a song about them. Get to Anarchapulco. It's a blast. It's an amazing time. Jeff, is there anything else you want to tell people before I could talk to you for like 40 days if you wanted, but we do have to move on.
We could definitely talk for a long time if we want to, but I should get going soon. But I should just say, Bix, if you want to speak again at the Dollar Vigilante Summit next year, I'm very happy to have you back. It's always a pleasure. As I mentioned, there's some people are like, oh, I don't like Bix Weir. You know, it's like, whatever, you know, like, I really like your style. You know, like, I don't know if every opinion you have on things is right. I don't know. I don't know. But you know, incredibly fascinating way of looking at things, which I really like. That's the way I am. I love the, you know, trying to figure out what's going on, and you find all these interesting clues. And it's very interesting at the very least. So yeah, it's agreed then. So you're coming back at the Dollar Vigilante Summit, which will be right before Anarchapulco. If you want to come to Anarchapulco, you can register now. The price will be going up in a couple months probably, or in a month. Anarchapulco.com.
Click on it. Absolutely. It's what was, I think I wrote down $395. That's cheap.
Yeah, we try to keep it as cheap as we can. We just want as many people to come down and experience it as possible. And if you're interested in the Dollar Vigilante, just dollarvigilante.com/subscribe is our newsletter. And we're on YouTube and everywhere else. And yeah, definitely come down and check out Anarchapulco with Bix. We always have a great time down there. And a lot of life-changing type stuff like what you found out with Christoph. There's a lot of amazing people who all really want to change this world for the better, who all seem to gravitate to Anarchapulco. And it can really be life-changing. So glad to hear about your diet. What is it, a raw diet?
It was 1 week, 1 week of raw, 1 week of smoothies. You basically put in a blender, and then 1 week of just juice, raw juice.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah, juice fasts
25
are
pounds
awesome.
gone.
Yeah, juice fasts are great. If people out there, like, the whole medical system is a scam. Your body can heal itself. The big problem is you're just constantly putting mostly garbage in it. Even if you eat decent, there's a lot of toxins, a lot of problems, things in the food and all that kind of stuff. If you just stop eating and just like have a juice for like a week, which I know a lot of people think is really hard, but maybe Bix, you can say it's not that hard at all.
It's really not that hard.
After day one, you're kind of like just fine. Definitely after day three, you're totally fine. You don't even think about eating. And you feel
head clears up. Your head is just clear as can be, and you don't feel that heavy weight.
Yeah, the clarity is amazing. The longest I've gone is about, I think, 8 or 9 days. And yeah, after about like 7 days, I'm like almost like a genius right now. Like I can think really fast. I hear when you go like 40 days, all of a sudden you start getting like messages from the universe or something. But apparently that's what happened to Moses and Jesus, and they went for 40 days and fasted in the desert, right? And so all that stuff, and that's all at Acapulco too. We have health and wellness and all that kind of stuff. Basically, it started off as a very anti-government conference, and it's turned into self-development and freedom and how to get away from all these systems. So we even have things like a lot of people still think you're supposed to send your kids to government schools. Never do that, especially now that they're vaccinating them, mandatory vaccinations.
It's crazy.
So there's other ways to do things, and it's like unschooling. Maybe some people might not even hear of it. So we just talk about different, much better systems that the world can have, and just mostly have a lot of fun on the beach in Mexico.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you so much for spending time with Road to Ruta, and it's nice to be on Dollar Vigilante. And we will we'll hook up again soon, and let us know when the formal announcement comes out for Acapulco.
Will do. Always a pleasure, Bix. Peace.
Right. Take care.